Remember earlier we were talking about running on a misfield and Lofty Eaton, Erasmus. Overseeing this process, Lofty Eaton 14 off 20 and Erasmus 9 off 18.
Well, Dixon, just to tell you a little bit about Radio GPT. Well, you know, Chat GPT was actually version 3. So they've gone up a level and created Radio GPT, where you've got these voices that sound like people that broadcast from the demo, has them broadcasting from a fictional town, I think, called Springfield in the US. And they make jokes, they give you service elements, they give you the news, they give you the weather. And without it constantly saying that this is artificial intelligence, you'd actually think it's a human being.
Well, those are real people on the screen. They are not people GPT or Briar's GPT. See former Namibian captain there, Dion Carter. In case you're joining us in the commentary box is Paul Radley, and he writes in the national newspaper, mainly focusing on cricket in the UAE. And he's going to be taking us through cricket development and cricket in general in the UAE and what he's been experiencing out here in Namibia. Paul, welcome.
Thanks for having me. It's great to be here. It's been a good week so far, and it just feels like it's building up, doesn't it, to a very interesting climax of this competition. And this game as well today. It's very delicately poised.
So, Paul, just taking us through what you write for the national newspaper in the UAE?
Yeah, that's correct. That's a daily broadsheet in the UAE website. And I've been mostly, well, I cover all sports actually, but covering this UAE cricket team has been quite good fun just lately.
Erasmus, Lofty Eaton, really quick behind the wickets. And look at that ratio, 159. Actually, 157 from 159 balls. They're looking to stick around here.
Vital partnership this for Namibia EPL. Just into his first over here for the UAE. 17-year-old, left arm spinner and all-rounder.
Tell us a little bit about Ayan Khan. I mean, it's very exciting. He's a young 17-year-old playing in the national side like this. Is there any info you can share with us?
Yeah, one thing, just looking at this particular stage of the game, actually, one thing I would say is that Ayan Khan and Gerard Erasmus were teammates at the Golf Giants in the ILT20, so I think they'd have played a fair bit of cricket against each other in the nets and things like that in practice. So I know the two UAE players, Sanchit Sharma as well, was also in Gerard Erasmus' team, and they speak very fondly of him. Yeah, Ayan Khan's just 17 years old. Debuted for the UAE when he was 16 last year at the T20 World Cup in Australia. Broke the record actually for the youngest player ever to feature in a T20 World Cup. Made his ODI debut for the UAE day before his 17th birthday in Nepal, and he's taken to it like a duck to water really. He's had a number of Player of the Match awards already in his international career. He's a real great prospect for UAE.
So, I mean, that speaks to the development of the game out there in the UAE. What kind of grassroots structures do they have in place?
They have ever-improving grassroots structures, I'd say. There's a lot of privately owned academies that are really thriving, doing a fantastic job. The three big councils, Sharjah, Abu Dhabi and Dubai, have their own grassroots programs as well. And if you see this team today, of the 11 players that are out there, 7 of the 11 in the side today have come through age group cricket in their national team in the UAE. It didn't always used to be the case because makeup of the country is quite different to lots of other countries. Yeah, just to continue that, yeah, the makeup of the UAE, that a lot of people emigrate to the country and expats as adults. Same actually goes for cricketers. A lot of adult cricketers end up in the country because they've fallen through the cracks in their home countries, and that always used to be the case with the national team, was made up of those players. But now if you see this team, 7 of the players have come through the ranks. The makeup of the team is starting to change.
So could it be right if someone would say it is sort of like your second generation of what's the correct word?
You're exactly right. So this is the second generation of expats. So in actual fact, it speaks of the fact that there was a big population boom. A lot of people came from abroad to the UAE, and now you're seeing their children coming through and playing for the national team. Got it, up and here bowling. He's another of those guys. Parents moved from India, and he's grown up all his life in Dubai. Come through the cricket development programs there, and he's excelling on the international stage now.
154 from 153 balls. May upon all smiles from the Grovemore end. Lofty Eaton, keeping things simple. So like punching that one towards the sweeper region. And you play a fair bit of cricket yourself?
No, unfortunately not. I used to before we got to the UAE, but yeah, it's not like here. I'd say, like watching this game today. Obviously, a Sunday, Namibia, the home team. It's an absolutely lovely atmosphere, I must say. It's really envious that this is how you watch cricket in this country. It's not like this back in the UAE.
Oh, pulled. Well fielded out there in the deep. What is it like? How would you say it's like in the UAE? How is the game accepted by the population out there?
Yeah.
Is it more formal? Is it less formal?
Yeah, so you wouldn't have a nice chilled atmosphere like this with people having brides beyond the boundary rope or things like that. There's it's difficult to describe really, but the game is more formal, sort of perhaps more corporate. The teams that you play for, the sort of A division or whatever sort of level of cricket they play, generally aren't club sides as such. They're more corporate teams. So cricket-loving employer will employ a good standard of cricketer to work for his company in whatever field that is, and they'll end up populating the cricket team. And as a result, it just doesn't have this feel of sort of a family day out. Basically, it feels just like a game they're going to play, and then at the end of it, head home, and that's it.
Talk to us a little bit about the facilities that have been developed out there in the UAE to support cricket.
The facilities are absolutely exceptional. They're back in probably about 15, 20 years ago. There was Sharjah Cricket Stadium,
which was the predominant, cricketing part of the country in the Emirates.
That was the original place where cricket started in the UAE. Yeah, that's where the big teams came and played in the Sharjah Cup. Cricket got really established there because they knew that there's a big expatriate work for South Indian
Oh!
Lofty Eaton departing cheaply. Just a dip in concentration there. And fast. And warranted. Was really disappointed in himself.
It's Ayan Khan who claimed that scalp.
Not really applying himself there, Lofty Eaton. Could have used more of his wrist to work that towards more 45 region. Could he have hit that one slightly much harder? But unfortunately, Lofty Eaton departs. 19 of 28. 117 for 4. And the first over of Ayan Khan. Actually, second over. First ball. Claims Lofty Eaton.
So we are chatting to Paul from the UAE. sports writer all around, I guess, with a special focus on cricket. And we were talking about the facilities out there, and you were telling us about how Sharjah was previously the preeminent place where cricket was played in the UAE, and obviously it's spread out.
Yeah, so cricket came to Sharjah because an Emirati, so the Emiratis are the local Arab, the indigenous people in the UAE. A businessman, he actually picked up on cricket. He understood what cricket was when he went to study in Pakistan. Realised how mad keen people from the subcontinent were for cricket, so he thought, maybe I'll build a cricket stadium and give this expanding subcontinental workforce that we have in the UAE something to go along and watch. And that's how cricket got established in Sharjah, and it's basically spread all over the country. And yeah, so about 10-15 years ago, that was the only grass cricket field in the whole of the country. All cricket was played either tape ball in the streets or as a concrete wicket with a sand outfield. And the advance in facilities over the past 2 decades has been incredible, really. So they have really high spec facilities in Dubai. They have two ovals on site in Dubai, and then the stadium just down the road at Dubai International Stadium, where these two teams actually played a couple of weeks ago. And then it's similar in Abu Dhabi. There's 3 grass fields there with a massive stadium as well. And there's other grass fields growing up all around the country as well. So the spread's been basically incredible in the past 15 years, really.
And talking about just the complexion and the makeup of teams, has cricket been taken up with the local Emiratis?
No, that's been a problem. Yeah, down the years, that's been. The team doesn't necessarily not reflect the makeup of the country, because the expatriate workforce is larger than the local population in the country. But Arabs generally, as a broad sort of stereotyping really, you'd say that the main sports of choice of Emiratis would be football, first of all, and then, because in actual fact the national football team is, and yes, exactly exactly as you're intimating, horse racing as well is massive too.
Lots of energy being displayed there on the field right now. And Zane Green still to open his account. That departure of Lofty Eaton really seems to have spruced up the energy levels of the UAE. Khan. Bit of a bounce in his step. Interesting character to just follow and watch when he's on the playing field. At one stage, it didn't seem like he was going to get there. He was making a huge effort. That's what happens if you make this game look easy. End of the over, 119 for 4, 26 overs gone. Just a whisker over the halfway mark of these innings. Green, 2 of 5. Erasmus, 13 of 23. I think Erasmus just looking to stick around and watch this towards the end.
And there you see the worm. Namibia, they're in the chase, looking well above, but losing that wicket. You see that dot? Looks like that worm could be tapering off. Let's talk a little bit about the surfaces that you get out there in the Emirates. I mean, because like usually in the subcontinent, you get the dust balls and you get a lot of spinners, and the spinners look pretty sharp here. Dixon?
Also, before you answer, there's been a lot of stereotypes about, I'll speak now after Mayapan's delivery. About Mayapan, about how one rich Arabian man went and bought all the grass of a stadium in Australia as well as the pitch.
That's, yeah, so you're talking about Dubai International Stadium, yeah, or it's Sports City in actual fact. Yes, there's a good story behind that, you're right.
Look like they'll come back for 3 slight hesitation, but they do.
Yeah, so that is Dubai Sports City, as I mentioned there. There's 2 ovals there. In actual fact, they have grass, sorry, not grass, they have soil or clay from Perth, the WACA, and also from Pakistan. Generally, the wickets in the UAE are Pakistani soil, and one other. I can't remember where the other place was actually. Now you mentioned it, but you're quite right. That was imported, and the idea was, if you import the soil, the clay from Australia, perhaps you'll have harder, faster pitches like a more traditionally Australian ones than there are in the subcontinent like Pakistan, which obviously is slower and lower and turn a bit. I must say that the pitch at Dubai Sports City, where that ground is actually known for being faster and bouncy. It's definitely not WACA speed or anything like that. But in actual fact, I think it's Brisbane. It's not as fast as a pitch you'd find in Australia, so it shows that the climatic conditions do play a role. But it is faster than the other Pakistani soil. So yeah, it's really interesting that you know about that.
St. Green there, taking the single.
Well, the reason why I know that is because I was in contact with a few guys from the Dubai Sports City. We run cricket academies here, and we wanted to go and spend some time there on our way to the UK before we go on our annual UK tour. I think it was back in 2019, and in one of the emails he explained about Dubai Sports City's facilities. So it's quite interesting that I didn't believe him at first, but
I think it's exactly as you just described. It was that with that in mind, that they wanted people to come to Dubai, and if they could offer all sorts of different things like that, that was the reason.
Swept. No contention at all. It races to the boundary. Erasmus. If you look at that replay, look at that setup. Goes down, keep that full face of the bat. Couple bounces to the boundary. 27 overs gone, 127 for 4, 141 required from 138 balls. And in the booth we have Paul Radley from the UAE, who's been following this team around for quite some time now, and there's a lot of information about UAE. And
one for a single. And so my question was there, Paul,
about the three main stadiums that they have where all the international cricket is played do have very different, the typical pitches are all very different to each other actually. So Sharjah, the oldest field, Pakistani wicket, would generally be slow, the bounce wouldn't be so high, even though they had a series there the other day, Pakistan against Afghanistan, and Pakistan got a new fast bowler called Isanullah, and he made a joke of that. He was getting it to bounce from anywhere. But generally, Sharjah would be pretty slow. Abu Dhabi would be a lot quicker. Slightly more grass on the pitch. A real nice batting wicket there. And Dubai is very changeable. We've had a lot of matches there. We can have sort of attributes of either stadium actually. It can be slow, low, and turn, or sometimes when they leave a bit of grass, the ball's turned a bit and kept low.
Oh, getting that one past. That's a single for Zane Green.
Yeah, that shot from Zane Green there was exactly what Lofty Eaton wanted to do, wasn't it? Instead he chipped it up to Wasim, lost his wicket.
Not quite being able to pull it off. Then going back a couple of years ago, that massive tournament that was held out there in the UAE. When Namibia came out there and they played as well, the World Cup. Must have been fantastic, and it must have done a lot for the country.
It was a shame because there was still, the reason it was there was because it still had the lingering effects of COVID, so they couldn't have it in Australia or India. So it was brought to the UAE, and the first round was also played in Oman, which is a lovely part of the world as well, neighbouring country. And it did. It was great to have it there, but it's just a pity because there was still sort of the effects of COVID and a few measures in place, like in Abu Dhabi. You saw this odd site like Abu Dhabi has lovely grass banks at the side of the Zayed Cricket Stadium where you can watch from, and they were these little sort of four-person pens basically of little white picket fence pens, and
I remember seeing that, and that looked very different. So Urkan.
another part of it was the fact that people still at that time were struggling to travel. So it was good that it was staged in the UAE because it's got a large, expat population from a lot of the cricket playing nations. But unfortunately, Australia and New Zealand played the final, and not one member of the written press was from either of those countries, because you couldn't travel at that point because the restrictions were so tight because of COVID, and it meant, obviously, more importantly, supporters couldn't travel either. So it's a bit of a pity, and I don't think the final was even a sellout, which was a shame, but at least the UAE has proven that it can stage major competitions like that.
Yes, indeed, and one would have hoped that an opportunity like that would have actually brought more buy-in from the local population into the game. You know, hosting such a massive tournament at home could have been the injection that was needed to get the Emiratis more involved. That delivery was wide. And tell us a little bit about Zahoor Khan.
Yeah, so Zahoor Khan is probably better known as a T20 specialist and a death overs in particular specialist. He's particularly good at that. He's got lots of variations. He's better with the old ball. Yeah, so yesterday UAE played and beat Canada, and it was his 50th ODI for UAE. He's been a good servant down the years.
It is looking very tight.
Didn't they? Sculpts. Hello, yeah, France.
Yes, Hilaria France and Bernard Schultz definitely coming through. And the captain himself, Gerrit Erasmus, coming a bit late on and getting that wicket when it was needed because the seamers were taking a bit of tap.
Yeah, we were speculating, actually, myself and Bertus Jong, another travelling journalist, that we're surprised Erasmus didn't bowl a little bit more, actually.
Exactly, and I was having that same conversation with Dixon Vambi a little bit earlier, especially when the seamers were coming under, increasing pressure. I thought he should have brought himself a little bit earlier. And speculation was that maybe he's carrying some sort of an injury. Then lo and behold, he brings himself on at the death and takes the wicket.
Yeah, and he was extremely tight as well. He did really well then, which makes you think perhaps he'd wasted a few overs that he could have got out of himself.
And the question is, if he had come on earlier and had the effect that he did have, they could have shaved maybe 20 runs off of that total, which could be telling.
Really
Still.
Really good point. And I've always found him really interesting to watch because that 25-yard delivery that he bowls, he bowled it loads today in the 2 overs that he bowled. In actual fact, at the T20 World Cup, I noticed he did that, and I was in a press conference with him, and I asked him what the thinking was behind it, and he basically said, "I'm not telling you, I'm not giving away the secrets."
Full delivery there by Zahoor Khan to Zain Green. Bit of a stare there.
Yeah, that's about as much as you'll get out of Zahoor in terms of hostility. He's a very mild-mannered person, Zahoor Khan. For a fast bowler, it's a strange thing. But yeah, no sledging. That'll be about as much as you get will be the odd glare here and there.
And the same to be said for Junaid Sadiq.
Junaid's a lot more aggressive. In actual fact, when they're on the field, they seem like very different characters. But in actual fact, off the field, Junaid's very similar. Lovely, placid, mild-mannered person.
There's another young man there that I'd love you to tell us a bit more about, Arvind.
Richie Arvind, yeah, he played well today, didn't he?
Yes, he did.
A quick look at this replay. There are a few, I think Zahoor appeal for this, but you can clearly see it's come off the toe into the ground and then bounced up to, as you mentioned, Richie Arvind, yeah, so he was a guy who came in. UAE had quite a few problems a few years back, about 4 years ago in actual fact, with a corruption issue in the UAE, and a lot of players got chucked out of the team while they were playing a tournament. In actual fact, the players got picked up when they were playing a friendly game against Namibia in the lead up to a World Cup, T20 World Cup qualifier. 3 players got taken out of the team, and as a result, Richie Aravind, who was one of the stars of the under-19s team at that time, got basically fished out of school to bolster the squad, and he ended up making his debut on a day he was supposed to have a psychology A-level exam. And he's been in the side ever since, and he has been absolutely exceptional. He's a really talented young player. I think he holds the record along